I'm standing in the corner of a ballroom that cost more to rent than my son's funeral. Crystal chandeliers, a jazz quartet, 200 guests in $1,000 suits, and my father, Marcus, laughing at the bar like he doesn't have a care in the world. He has no idea I'm about to destroy his life. The flash drive in my pocket weighs nothing, 8 gigabytes. That's all it takes to end a man who spent 40 years building an empire. I've rehearsed this moment 100 times. I know exactly where I'll stand, the exact words I'll say, the look on his face when he realizes what's happening. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand how we got here. You need to understand what they did. Because 6 months ago, I was a different person. I had a son. His name was Noah. He was 7 years old, and he was dying. Let me tell you about numbers. I'm a forensic accountant. I find hidden money for a living. I trace fraud. I follow paper trails. I've caught executives embezzling millions. Numbers don't lie. They just sit there, cold and honest, telling you exactly what someone values. Here are the numbers that changed everything. $85,000. That's what it cost to save my son's life. Experimental CAR T-cell therapy at Johns Hopkins. Stage 4, leukemia. 3 weeks to raise the money or lose his spot in the trial. $230,000. That's what my parents spent on my sister Ava's wedding. One day, 6 hours of celebration. Now, I'm not a monster. I wasn't asking them to cancel the wedding. I wasn't asking them to choose between their children. I was asking for a fraction, 37%. Hell, I would have taken 20%. $17,000, the cost of the flowers alone, would have changed everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. Let me take you back to the moment it all started to fall apart. March 5th, a Tuesday. My wife Sarah and I had been awake for 36 hours straight. Noah had spiked a fever of 104. The oncologist, Dr. Patel, this kind woman with exhausted eyes, sat us down and said the words that split our lives into before and after. The standard chemotherapy isn't working. His body is shutting down. There's one option left. We sold everything. My car, $6,000. Sarah's grandmother's engagement ring, $3,800. We emptied our retirement accounts, took the penalties. We launched a GoFundMe that I updated every single day with photos of Noah. Begging strangers on the internet. And you know what? Strangers cared more than my own family. $18,000 came from people I'd never met. A man in Oregon who'd lost his own son sent $500 with a note that said, "Fight like hell." We were still 67,000 short. That's when I called my father. Now, before I tell you what happened in that conversation, I need you to understand something about my family. My father, Marcus, VP of Finance at a major investment firm, custom suits, Tesla, a house with 6 bedrooms for 2 people. My mother, Eleanor, who spent her days volunteering at charity galas and planning my sister's perfect life. And Ava, the golden child, the favorite, the one who could do no wrong. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to beg a parent for help? Have you ever been the second choice in your own family? Drop a comment and let me know. Because what happened next? I need you to understand I didn't go into this looking for revenge. I was just looking for help. I called my mother first. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice bright and distracted. "Mother," mimicked Chipper. "Liam, honey, can this be quick? Ava and I are at the florist." I told her about the trial, about the money, about how we'd exhausted every option and my son had 3 weeks to live without treatment. I kept my voice steady, factual. I didn't cry. Not yet. She said, "Oh, sweetheart, that's so much money. Let me talk to your father. Come by the house on Saturday." Saturday, 3 days away. Noah didn't have 3 days. But I said thank you and told myself it was going to be okay. They were going to help. They had to. Saturday came. I drove to my parents' house alone. Sarah stayed at the hospital with Noah. I pulled into their circular driveway, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. They were waiting in the living room, coffee on the table, biscotti. Like this was a social call. My father didn't even stand up. Father, mimicked, condescending. "We've been talking about your situation, and we want you to know we sympathize. We really do. But $85,000 is a significant amount of money. We're not in a position to provide that kind of assistance right now." I stared at him, at his Rolex, at the painting behind him that cost more than my annual salary, and I said, "You just spent $230,000 on Ava's wedding." My mother flinched. My father's expression didn't change. "That's different," he said. "That's been planned and budgeted for years. It's not discretionary spending." Not discretionary spending. A wedding is essential. My son's life is discretionary. "I'm not asking you to cancel the wedding," I said, and my voice was shaking now. "I'm asking for a portion. Anything. Even half. Please." My mother looked at my father. He shook his head. "We can't. We've made commitments. Vendors. Venue. Contracts. We'd lose deposits. Noah is going to die." My mother started crying. Soft, delicate tears that didn't mess up her makeup. My father walked to his desk, pulled out his checkbook, and wrote something. He handed it to me. $500. "I hope this helps," he said. $500 out of 230,000. 0.217%. I'd done the math before I even made it to the car. I left without another word. And 3 days later, I was at their house for Ava's bridal shower, smiling for photos while my son deteriorated 17 miles away. That's when I started paying attention to the numbers. The check sat on my kitchen counter for 2 days. I couldn't bring myself to deposit it. $500 felt like an insult wrapped in charity. But something happened after that conversation. I stopped begging. I stopped hoping. And I started doing what I do best. I started investigating. Ava had made her wedding budget public, posted it on her Instagram for her 14,000 followers. A transparent look at real wedding costs. She was proud of it. I opened that spreadsheet on a Thursday night. Noah's breathing shallow through an oxygen mask beside me. And I started reading. Venue rental, $18,000. Catering for 200 guests, $42,000. Photography and videography, $15,000. Floral arrangements, $32,000. $32,000. For flowers that would die after one day. The wedding dress and alterations, $8,500. The bridesmaids' dresses that she gifted to her friends, $3,600. Live band, $12,000. Open bar, premium liquor, $16,000. Wedding planner, invitations, transportation, rehearsal dinner, welcome bags for out-of-town guests, ceremony musician. And then I saw it. Peacock ice sculpture for the cocktail hour, $1,200. $1,200 for ice, shaped like a bird. That would melt before dessert. I made my own spreadsheet. 2 columns, side by side. Ava's wedding, $230,000. Noah's treatment, 85,000. I broke it down further. Per hour. The wedding was 6 hours. Ceremony to last dance, $38,333 per hour. Noah's treatment would buy him, if it worked, if we got lucky, let's say 50 more years. That's 438,000 hours, 19 cents per hour of my son's life, versus $38,000 per hour of my sister's party. I closed the laptop before I put my fist through it. The next day, my father stopped by the hospital, stood in the doorway like cancer might be contagious. How's he doing? Noah was gray, 52 pounds, down from 68. He's dying, I said. My father nodded. I wanted to check in, see if there was anything we could do. You could give me the money for the ice sculpture, I said. Just the peacock, $1,200. It'll melt. Give me that instead. It's not that simple. Explain to me how it's not that simple. He couldn't. He stood there, mouth open, then said, "The vendors have been paid. The contracts are signed. We can't just cancel the peacock. Ava wants the peacock." I laughed. I actually laughed, and it sounded like something breaking. "Get out," I said. He left. That night, I went back to the spreadsheet. I looked at every line item, calculated what percentage of Noah's treatment each one represented. And then I found something I wasn't looking for. Hidden at the bottom, in a section labeled Miscellaneous Contributions. Life insurance proceeds, $127,000. My parents didn't have a life insurance policy that had matured. I would have known. I'd handled their taxes. So where did $127,000 come from? I logged into the financial database I use for work, ran my father's name, his social security number, pulled every record, and that's when I found it. The policy wasn't theirs. It was mine. Stop. Right there. Before I tell you what I found, I need you to pause and think about this. I need you to understand what I'm about to say. My father took out a life insurance policy on me when I was 6 years old. $250,000 death benefit. He was listed as the beneficiary. And 6 months before my son got sick, he cashed it out. Surrender value, $127,000. He used my life insurance, money that was supposed to protect my family if something happened to me, to pay for my sister's wedding. So here's my question. What would you do if you found out your parent had literally monetized your death to fund a party while your child was dying? What would you do? Comment below, because what I did next either makes me a hero or a monster, and I honestly don't know which. Noah died on a Wednesday, April 17th, 3:47 in the morning. Sarah was holding his left hand. I was holding his right. Dr. Patel stood at the foot of the bed, her face carefully composed. The machines had been beeping for so long that the silence, when it came, felt wrong. Sarah made a sound I'd never heard before, something animal. She collapsed forward onto his chest, and I just sat there, still holding his hand, watching it turn cold. They say kids look peaceful when they die. That's bullshit. He just looked small, so impossibly small. We stayed for 2 hours, maybe 3. Time stopped meaning anything. Sarah talked to him, told him stories about the life he should have had, the colleges, the wedding, the grandchildren he would have given us. She built him a whole future in the past tense. We left at dawn, drove home in silence. The house felt wrong. All of Noah's things were still there. His backpack, his shoes, his drawings on the refrigerator. But he wasn't. My phone rang at 8 a.m. My mother. Liam, honey, I just heard. I'm so sorry. Okay. Is there anything we can do? No. We'll come over. We'll bring food. You shouldn't be alone. We want to be alone. Then she said it. The thing I will never, ever forgive. The funeral. Have you thought about timing? He died 4 hours ago. I know, sweetheart, I know. Ava's final dress fitting is on Saturday. It's at 2 o'clock. The seamstress is flying in from New York. If we miss this appointment, there won't be time for alterations before the wedding. What are you asking me? I'm just saying, if you're planning the funeral, maybe we could look at Sunday? Or even next week. Just so the family doesn't have to choose between. Choose between what, Mom? Between saying goodbye to your grandson and making sure a dress fits? That's not fair, Liam. This wedding has been planned for 2 years. There are 200 guests. We can't just... I hung up. The funeral was on Saturday. Not because I was accommodating anyone, because that's when the funeral home had availability. They came. My parents. Ava. Her fiancé, Derek. They sat in the back row. I gave a eulogy. I don't remember what I said. Something about Noah's laugh, his dinosaur obsession, the way he narrated his life like it was a nature documentary. And here we observe the wild Noah in his natural habitat, the living room, building a Lego fortress. People cried. I didn't. I couldn't. There was something else inside me, something cold and solid that had filled up all the spaces where tears should have been. At the cemetery, while Sarah talked to her sister, my mother pulled me aside. That was a beautiful service, she said. Thanks. Listen, I wanted to apologize for what I said on the phone. It came out wrong. But Liam, you have to understand. Ava is your sister. She loves you. She's devastated about Noah. But this is her wedding. It's the biggest day of her life. And my son died. I know that. His biggest day is over. It lasted 7 years. Ava's biggest day is 6 hours. And you want me to understand why hers matters more. My mother started crying. Then Ava appeared. Perfect makeup. Black dress that probably cost more than the casket. Liam, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry. Then she said, don't come to the reception. After the funeral. Go home. Be with Sarah. You don't need to be around people right now. It was, objectively, a kind thing to say. And that made it worse. Because she didn't see it. None of them saw it. Ava, I said quietly, when's your dress fitting? Today, at 2. Why? I checked my watch. 1:47 p.m. You should go. You don't want to be late. They left 20 minutes later. All of them. Drove away from my son's grave to make sure a dress fit properly. And something in me, the last piece that had been holding on, finally let go. Sarah found me an hour later, still standing at Noah's grave. What are you thinking about? She asked. I'm thinking about what happens next. What do you mean? I looked at her. I'm going to destroy them. It wasn't a decision. It was a statement of fact, like saying the sun would rise. I went back to work 3 weeks after the funeral. Sarah didn't. She couldn't. She spent her days in Noah's room, holding his stuffed triceratops, not crying, just existing. I kissed her forehead every morning and went to my office on the 14th floor, and I started building the case. My father, Marcus Hartwell, VP of Finance at Meridian Capital Group. 42 years with the company. 3 months away from a promotion to CFO, the crown jewel of his career. Mandatory retirement at 65, so this was his last shot at the title. His compensation package was public record. Base salary, $340,000. Annual bonus, 120 to 180. Stock options, company car. They lived comfortably, very comfortably, but not $230,000 for a wedding comfortably. I pulled their tax returns. 7 years back. Their income was consistent. No windfalls, no inheritances. So where did the money come from? I expanded my search. Bank records, investment accounts. I used my father's social security number, memorized from childhood, to access everything. And there it was. 6 months ago. October. A deposit of $127,000. Source: Pacific Life Insurance Company. Policy number: PL 88472993HX. I pulled the policy details. Whole life insurance. Issued in 1993. Insured: Liam Marcus Hartwell. That's me. Beneficiaries: Marcus Hartwell and Eleanor Hartwell. Death benefit: $250,000. Cash surrender value as of October 2024, $127,438. My father had cashed out a life insurance policy taken out when I was 6 years old. A policy designed to pay out if I died. He'd liquidated my death for wedding money. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen, and I started laughing. The sheer audacity of it. The mathematical poetry. He didn't just refuse to help save Noah. He funded the wedding with a policy that would have paid out $250,000 if I died. I was worth more to them dead than my son was alive. I pulled up the wedding budget again, cross-referenced it with their bank statements, matched deposits to line items. The $127,000 from my life insurance had been deposited October 12th, October 15th, $18,000 to the venue, October 22nd, $42,000 to catering, November 3rd, $32,000 to the florist. I traced every dollar, made a new spreadsheet, color-coded it, green for their normal income, red for my life insurance money. 68% of the wedding was funded by my death benefit. The flowers, my death. The band, my death. The open bar, my death. The peacock ice sculpture, my death. This wasn't just neglect. This wasn't poor priorities. This was premeditated. My father was 3 months from becoming CFO. That promotion came with a $200,000 raise, a seat on the board, a legacy. He had been chasing it his entire career. And here's the thing about CFOs. They're subject to extensive background checks, financial audits. The SEC scrutinizes them. One whiff of impropriety, and the offer disappears. So I started digging into his work. Not his personal finances anymore, his professional ones, company credit cards, expense reports, travel reimbursements. I requested them through a contact at Meridian, told her I was doing family financial planning. She sent them without question, and I found the pattern. My father had been creative with his expenses, charging personal dinners as client meetings, upgrading flights beyond company policy, claiming mileage for trips that didn't happen. Small things. 500 here, 1,000 there. Over 10 years, it added up to $67,000, not enough to trigger an audit on its own. But enough, when combined with everything else, to raise serious questions about his judgment, about his character, about whether he was fit to be CFO. I made copies of everything, organized it, built a timeline. I worked the way I work for clients, methodically, thoroughly, leaving no gaps, and then I put it all in a folder. Bank statements, wedding budgets, life insurance documents, Expense reports with the questionable charges highlighted. I printed it out, all of it. 173 pages of evidence, and I put it in a USB drive. 8 gigabytes. That's all it took. My father's 65th birthday party was scheduled for June 2nd, 6 weeks before his promotion announcement. 200 guests, half of them from Meridian, including the CEO, board members, major shareholders. It would be the perfect stage. I could hand out copies of the documents, give a toast that would end his career in 5 minutes, watch him lose everything in real time, the way I'd lost Noah. I drove to Noah's grave that night, brought flowers, the cheap ones from the grocery store, not French peonies. I sat on the grass and told him what I'd found. He didn't just let you die. He used my own death as collateral. I don't know if you'd want me to do this. You were 7. You didn't understand cruelty yet. You thought everyone was good. But I understand now, and I can't let this go. I stood up, brushed grass off my jeans. I'm sorry if that makes me a bad person, but they made me this way. All right, let's talk about this. Because I need to know where you stand. I have the evidence. I have the party. I have 173 pages that will destroy my father's career, his reputation, his legacy, the man who cashed out my life insurance to fund a party while my son died. But before I tell you what happened at that birthday party, I need to know, am I the villain here? Am I taking this too far? Drop a comment. Tell me if I'm justified or if I'm becoming just as bad as them. Because what happens next, there's no going back from. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see how this ends. Because trust me, you're not ready for what I'm about to tell you. June 2nd arrived like an execution date. The Grandview Estate, historic mansion, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, French doors opening onto gardens. The kind of place that charges $5,000 just to unlock the front door. I arrived at 7:23 p.m., fashionably late. 200 guests in cocktail attire, string quartet, waiters in white jackets with champagne, ice sculptures, swans this time, not peacocks, catching the light like frozen fire. Everything was gold and white, elegant, expensive, perfect. My father's kingdom. I took a glass of champagne and moved through the crowd, invisible. I recognized faces from Meridian, executives, board members, the CEO, Gerald Thornton, at the bar with my father, both of them laughing. My father looked proud, untouchable. He had no idea what was in my pocket. Ava found me first. Liam, I wasn't sure you'd come. Wouldn't miss Dad's big day. She studied my face. We hadn't spoken since the dinner last week. The one where I'd told them I knew everything. About last week, she started. It's fine. It's not fine. You were upset. Ava. I don't want to do this tonight. Let's just get through the party. Relief flooded her face. She hugged me and disappeared. I found a spot near the French doors, observed without being observed. My father was working the room, shaking hands, laughing. He'd always been good at this, the performance of success. My mother played her role too, gracious hostess, making introductions, smiling through whatever pain she felt. They were a team, always had been. A united front against the world, against me. Dinner was served at 8. I was seated at table 7, far from the head table where my parents sat with the CEO and board members. Keep the grieving son away from the important guests. Can't have him bringing down the mood. I ate in silence. Dessert came at 9:15. Some elaborate chocolate construction that probably cost $50 a plate. Then the speeches started. Gerald Thornton stood first. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to celebrate a remarkable man. Marcus Hartwell has been with Meridian Capital for 42 years. 42 years of dedication, integrity, and extraordinary leadership. Applause. My father smiled modestly. Marcus started as a junior analyst in 1983. Through determination and brilliance, he's become one of the most respected financial minds in the industry. He's guided this company with grace, wisdom, and unwavering ethics. Unwavering ethics. While I can't make any official announcements tonight, Thornton paused. Everyone knew what was coming. I think it's safe to say Marcus's best years are still ahead of him. More applause. My father stood, shook hands, posed for photos. My mother was crying. Happy tears. Ava was beaming. I felt nothing. Finally, at 10 o'clock, my father stood to give his speech. Thank you all for being here. 65 years is a long time, long enough to learn what matters in life. He gestured to my mother. Eleanor, you've been my rock for 41 years. You've given me 2 incredible children. Everything I've accomplished because of you. Applause. And my children. Ava, your wedding last month was one of the happiest days of my life. Watching you start this new chapter, that's what it's all about. The future. Ava cried. And Liam. He found me in the crowd. I know this year has been unimaginably difficult for you. The loss of Noah has devastated all of us. But I'm so proud of your strength, your resilience, your dignity. Every word was a lie. Every single word. Family is everything. Success means nothing if you don't have people to share it with. Money is just numbers on a page. What matters is the people you love and the legacy you leave behind. He raised his glass. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of my journey. To Marcus, someone shouted. To Marcus. 200 people drank to my father's success, his integrity, his beautiful family. I stood up. The movement caught my mother's attention. She looked at me and something flickered across her face. Fear. She knew. I walked toward the head table. The crowd parted. People watched, curious about what the son was going to say. My father raised his glass. To family, he said. I reached the head table, set down my champagne, looked at my father. Actually, I said, I'd like to say a few words. The room held its breath. My father's smile froze. Liam, of course, please. He gestured to the microphone. I stepped forward. 200 faces turned toward me. This was it. The moment I'd been building toward for 2 months. The evidence was in my pocket. I could pull out the USB drive right now. Explain everything. Show them who Marcus Hartwell really was. I opened my mouth. Liam. The voice came from behind me. Quiet. Desperate. My mother. She stood at the edge of the crowd, drained of color. Liam, could I speak with you? Privately? The room shifted uncomfortably. My father started to object. Eleanor, whatever it is can wait. It can't. Her voice was final. Liam, please. I looked at her, at my father, at the microphone. Then I stepped back. Excuse me. Family matter. My mother grabbed my arm and pulled me through the French doors, into the gardens, away from the crowd. We walked until we reached a fountain. The sound of water covered our voices. She turned to face me. What were you going to do in there? What do you think? I think you were going to destroy your father. He deserves it. Maybe. She looked at me. eyes full of something I couldn't name. But before you do, there's something you need to know. I know everything, Mom. The bank records, the life insurance, the expense reports. No, you don't. She took a breath. Ava isn't your father's daughter. The words hung in the air. I stared at her. What? Ava. She's not Marcus's biological child. My brain tried to process that. Failed. You're saying you had an affair? 29 years ago? Yes. I sat down on the edge of the fountain. My mother remained standing. His name was David. David Chen. He was a colleague of your father's. We worked together on a charity board. It lasted 3 months. Does Dad know? Yes. He found out when I was pregnant. I told him everything. And he stayed with you. He stayed for you. You were 5 years old. He didn't want to destroy your life over my mistake. I tried to align this with everything I thought I knew. But he kept Ava. He raised her. He treated her like... I stopped. Understanding crashed over me. That's why, I whispered. My mother nodded. That's why he favored her. That's why nothing she did was ever wrong. That's why he gave her everything. It wasn't favoritism, Liam. It was guilt. Your father is a proud man. When I told him about the affair, about the pregnancy, he made a choice. He decided to raise Ava as his own, to never let her know, to be the father she deserved, even though every time he looked at her, he saw my betrayal. So he overcompensated. He overcompensated. Every gift, every indulgence, every time he said yes when he should have said no. It was him trying to love her past the resentment, trying to prove he was a good man despite everything. I thought about the wedding, the $230,000, the absurd expenses. The wedding was his proof, I said slowly. His evidence that he could be a perfect father to a child that wasn't his. Yes, while his actual son's child died, my mother flinched. He didn't see it that way. How did he see it? He saw the wedding as an obligation, a debt he owed. Noah was a tragedy, an impossible situation. But the wedding was something he could control, something he could finish, something that would prove he'd done right by Ava. I stood up, paced. The life insurance policy. My father cashing it out wasn't just about funding the wedding. It was symbolic. He'd liquidated his son, his real son, to pay for his guilt. The $500 donation. Not just cheap. A message. You're not the priority. The expense reports. A man trying to maintain appearances while drowning in the cost of his own moral theater. Does Ava know? I asked. No, and she can't. Ever. It would destroy her. It would destroy the fiction, the fantasy where she's Daddy's little princess. She loves him, Liam. He's the only father she's ever known. And I'm the son he had before his wife's affair ruined everything. I'm the reminder of what his life was supposed to be. Before you cheated, before Ava, I'm the ghost of his real family. You're his son. Biologically, sure, but emotionally, I've been competing with a guilt project for 30 years, and I lost. My son died because I lost. My mother grabbed my arm. If you expose him tonight, if you humiliate him in front of those people, you'll destroy more than his career. The truth will come out. It always does. And Ava will spend the rest of her life knowing her father wasn't her father, that her wedding was bought with blood money. She should know. Why? So she can suffer too? So everyone can be as miserable as you are? My son died. Your husband chose to assuage his guilt over your affair instead of saving his grandson, and you want me to protect him? I want you to think about what you're really doing. This isn't justice, Liam. It's revenge. And revenge doesn't bring Noah back. We stood in the garden. Inside, people were laughing, dancing, celebrating a man who'd built his entire life on a lie, just like I'd been planning to do. Expose the lie. Burn it all down. But this lie was bigger than I'd imagined. What was his name? Ava's biological father? David Chen. Where is he now? He died. Car accident, 8 years ago. He never knew about Ava. Of course he didn't. I looked at my mother. She'd aged since Noah died. New lines. Gray hair. She looked tired, like someone who'd been carrying a very heavy weight for a very long time. Why are you telling me this now? Because I saw your face in there. I knew what you were about to do, and I couldn't let you do it without understanding the full picture. You're manipulating me. I'm giving you information. What you do with it is your choice. I thought about the USB drive in my pocket. The evidence. All of it still true. All of it still damning, but now complicated by this other truth. He still let Noah die, I said. Yes. The affair doesn't change that. No, it doesn't. It just explains why. My mother looked at me. What are you going to do? I pulled the USB drive from my pocket, held it up. 8 gigabytes, 173 pages, my father's entire career, his legacy, his future, all of it contained in this tiny piece of plastic. I don't know, I said. But I know this. He doesn't get to use your guilt as an excuse. He doesn't get to hide behind Ava's innocence. He made choices, and choices have consequences. Liam, I'm going back in there. I walked back into the ballroom. My mother followed, her face pale, terrified. The party had continued. Music, laughter. My father was at the bar with the CEO, both of them holding scotch, celebrating. I walked straight toward them. The crowd parted. Conversation stopped. My father saw me coming. His smile faltered. Liam, he said carefully, everything all right? I stood in front of him, in front of Gerald Thornton, in front of the board members and executives, and everyone who'd just toasted Marcus Hartwell's integrity. I held up the USB drive. I want to give you a gift, Dad, for your birthday. He stared at the drive. What is that? It's your legacy. Everything you've built, your career, your reputation, your future. It's all right here. The CEO looked confused. Marcus, what's he talking about? I looked at my father, really looked at him. This man who'd raised a child born from betrayal, who'd spent 30 years overcompensating for someone else's sin, who'd let his grandson die to fund his atonement. Tell them, I said quietly. Tell them about the life insurance policy. Tell them about the wedding. Tell them where the money came from. My father's face went white. Liam, don't. Tell them about the expense reports, the personal charges, the 10 years of creative accounting. Tell them about the peacock ice sculpture that cost $1,200 while my son died 17 miles away. Liam, please. I looked at the USB drive in my hand, at my father's terrified face, at my mother, crying by the door, at Ava, who'd just walked in, confused and scared. Ava, who had no idea she wasn't who she thought she was, who'd spent her whole life believing she was Daddy's little girl, who was innocent in all of this. Just like Noah had been innocent. I closed my fist around the drive. Happy birthday, Dad, I said, and I walked out. I didn't send the evidence to Rebecca Morgan. I didn't expose him at the party. I didn't destroy his career in one dramatic moment, but I didn't do nothing either. 1 week after the promotion was announced, July 22nd, I sent the expense reports to a Bloomberg journalist named Marcus Chen. Just the professional misconduct. Nothing about the wedding. Nothing about the life insurance. Nothing that would lead back to Ava. The article published 3 weeks later. Ethics questions surround Meridian Capital's new CFO. The board launched an investigation. 6 weeks later, my father retired early to spend more time with family. He'd been CFO for 46 days. He lost the promotion, the legacy, the respect. He'll spend the rest of his life knowing he was this close, and he lost it because of his own choices. That's enough. I haven't spoken to them since. Changed my number. Moved to a different suburb. Sarah and I are building a new life. We scattered Noah's ashes in the ocean on what would have been his 8th birthday. Just the two of us. No family, no ceremony. Do you think we did the right thing? Sarah asked. I think we did what we could live with. Is that the same as right? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. It's been 18 months now. I still think about Noah every day. Still see his face in crowds. Still reach for my phone to text Sarah about something he would have loved. The grief hasn't gone away. It's just changed shape. Sarah works at a nonprofit now, helping families with medical debt. Turns out losing a child to a treatable disease because you couldn't afford it is more common than anyone wants to admit. She helps them, the ones we used to be. Last week, I saw Ava in a coffee shop, pregnant, maybe 6 months along. She looked happy. She didn't see me. I paid for my coffee and left. Because some doors, once closed, need to stay closed. My father lost his promotion. My mother lost her son. Ava lost a brother she didn't know she was losing. I lost everyone. But I kept myself. And some days that feels like enough. Some days it feels like victory. So there it is. The ledger of the dead. Balanced. Not even. Not fair. Not right. Just balanced. Now I need to know. Was I the hero or the villain? Did I go too far or not far enough? Should I have exposed everything and damn the consequences? Drop your verdict in the comments below. And if you think this story deserves to be heard, hit that like button and subscribe. Because the truth, messy, complicated, painful as it is, deserves to be told. And if you've got your own story about family betrayal, about impossible choices, about the arithmetic of love, I want to hear it. This is just the beginning.